Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the best performing league starters of Scourge. So if you're planning a reroll, or your league starter didn't turn out, or you just want to change a pace and you're not quite ready to sink in the big money in a juicing character, this is the video for you. So in order to determine what the best characters are for league start, we're going to be taking a look through PoE Ninja. And to kind of, ascertain which ones are the best, we will of course be taking a look at the highest level characters of each archetype and also the most played skills of the league. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So the first one up here is Toxic Rain, on plenty of different ascendancies here. So we've got obviously the Toxic Rain Champion, Occultist, Raider, and Pathfinder. Lots of people like Toxic Rain, and it definitely seems to be as successful as ever. But it seems that the build has kind of gone through a bit of an evolution, with a lot of people taking stuff like Ghost Dance, and then of course all the champions taking Mage, Bane as well. So of course there's tons of different ascendancies you can play Toxic Rain on, and of course you couple it with Caustic Arrow for clear, and there's definitely just a lot that you can get through. And it's a character that works very, very well on very, very low gear, that also scales reasonably well with decent gear. If you've got like 20x to throw at something, this could definitely be a very strong character. In addition to that, it also complements one of the better league start strategy, currency making strategies, and that is Heist. Toxic Rain is very fast, especially on a Raider, and it's also very durable if you build it correctly. So it's definitely an ideal league starter if you're going for a heisting strategy. But it's also reasonably competent, obviously at doing maps. It's a very good character for doing harvest or crafting, and even, doing some bossing, maybe nothing too insane, but it's definitely, good enough to get through Sirius and the Conquerors, and even some of the Invitations, and maybe even Maven. So a very competent character. Let's take a look at what people are rocking and, obviously whether or not we would recommend this. So most people are now rolling with spell suppression, especially on the Raider side of things, but also on the Champion and the Occultist side of things as well. I personally, if I was playing it, would be playing it on a Raider for that extra movement speed. It's massive quality of life, and I would definitely be going down the spell suppression route. If you guys are interested, really good spell suppression characters, with obviously a lot of investment into suppression and also for, evasion and, stuff like that, can actually quite easily tank the Cyrus Die Beam with ailment immunity, which is obviously pretty impressive, so you can get very, very durable. And of course, you can have respectable damage as well with Toxic Rain if you can get your hands on a multi-modded bow like this one, which is reasonably easy to craft. It's about, probably about 10 to 12 exalts to craft this from nothing, which is super duper awesome. Now, overall, the character is pretty competent, so I would actually definitely recommend this if you don't mind the Toxic Rain playstyle. Obviously, it's a little bit clunky and there is delay, it's damage over time, so if you're not too into that, obviously it won't be for you, but if you're okay with damage over time and waiting for the pods to explode, it could definitely be one to look into, because it's tried, it's true, and it's very, very effective, and it will get you most of the way through the game, and definitely be a good character to earn a bit of currency on, so definitely a good one. Alright, so next up, what do we got? We've got the Exsanguinate Seismic Trap Saboteur, which is definitely a little bit cheaper these days after the initial hype has died down from the very first days of League Start. So this character was spruiked by a number of people, mainly Big Ducks, I believe, as one of the better boss killers that you could go, and lots of people decided to play it. If you kind of come in and take a look, we got almost 10% of the league playing a Seismic Trap Exsanguinate Trapper, which is crazy. However, it didn't disappoint, with plenty of players performing very, very well on it. Many people on this list, 99, 100, and some of them are even wearing a headhunter on their Trapper character, which is pretty interesting. And just taking a look at some of the items, like this guy's got a very expensive chest piece here. These players are obviously using these characters to be, farming up quite well and making quite a lot of currency. So the main two items which are expensive are the Cold Iron Points here, which have come down dramatically in price. I believe they're about 60 chaos now, and this character is primarily going to be a bossing character. It can do pretty much all content as long as you're mechanically sound, feared and all sorts like that. You can't be standing and stuff, but it's also going to be able to get through most of the content without too much trouble, as long as you've got a bit of a, a cast on death portal setup going on in there. before you get insane gear. It's not bad on the mapping either. It has reasonable mapping, and from what I can see, it's also reasonably good at Scourge. Both Toxic Rain and this are kind of the two kind of premier, really hyped up and pushed builds. And they definitely do seem to have lived up to the hype, and many people obviously are having a lot of success with them. Of course, the Seismic Trap Exsanguinate, if you don't like the trap playstyle, obviously it wouldn't be for you, but if you do like it, you don't mind it, and you really like big burst damage, this could definitely be one to look into as well if you want to do a bit of bossing, which is now starting to bounce back a little bit. More of the bossing currencies are worth a lot more as well, with stuff like Maven Orbs going up in price, so it could be time to get back into bossing, and it could also be a reasonably good pickup if you want to roll into maybe a bit of a bosser with the prices coming down in week 2. Okay, what's next on the list? We have the Corrupting Fever meta. So there's a few people playing Corrupting Fever. It's nowhere near as many as Toxic Rain and Seismic Trap Exsanguinate Trap, but there's definitely quite a lot of people having a lot of success, predominantly with Tornado Shot, it seems, with Corrupting Fever, with a lot of people being, obviously level 100, level 98, and stuff like that. Obviously these players have a reasonable amount of gear, with a lot of them having Mage Blood and Headhunter and stuff like that on there. So this does seem like the build which a lot of people started out and used for very effective mapping and acquired a lot of currency from, which is pretty cool. Overall, this is the build that I started as well, and it was incredibly effective, and I was able to accumulate quite a lot of currency as well. It's definitely a bit of a beast at mapping. It's quite competent at delve as well, and it can also, plow its way through the Guardian invites as well as the hidden and all of the invites, in fact, actually, once you do accumulate quite a little bit of gear. Namely, a multi-modded bow with some of the really more expensive support gems like a level 4 in power. You are going to absolutely mince through pretty much the entire game's content, with the exception of the Uber stuff. We haven't seen too much about that, but that's out of the context of this video. I'll have to get into that in a future one, but it's fair to say Corrupting Fever is on the menu, and there's a lot of people playing it and experimenting with it, and it's a pretty good delivery system for clear speed, and I think we're probably going to see a lot more people playing Wands in the future as people start to get into the Uber content, because Wands, when you combine that with Scourging chess pieces and Corrupting chess pieces, can reach absolutely obscene damage numbers, but that remains to be seen. We don't know too much about what's happening after the League Start meta, but right now, Corrupting Fever seems to be a good one if you're looking for a clear zoom kind of League Start character. And it's, it's a little bit more on the expensive side, with a lot of the items costing quite a bit, but it is definitely well worth the money if you have the currency to kind of reinvest in a second build, or, pick up the items for this one, which is pretty cool. Alright, so the primary thing, obviously, for this build is the bow, and if you want to get tanky, you're going to need a reduced mana reservation helmet to be able to fit in Determination, alongside an Enlighten, maybe even some other, kind of funny tricks to get the efficiency going, but it is a very durable character and a very good fast one. Next up on the list, we have Skeleton Mages, one which I actually had no idea would be this popular, and this powerful, in fact. I've heard stories already of Skeleton Mages clearing wave 30 of Simulacrum, pretty easily, which is quite impressive. Minions do boast some of the highest damage in the game, but I heard that we had quite a few nerfs on them before the patch, but apparently that's not too bad, with 6% of the league playing Summon Skeletons. Now this seems to be quite a specific build of Summon Skeletons, one that I haven't actually seen myself. It's using Fleshcrafter, which is pretty interesting, and this unique basically primarily gives your minions kind of energy shield, but when your minions do have energy shield, they ignore elemental resistances, which is very good for Skeleton Mages. Because Skeleton Mages cast all 3 elements, and with the removal of elemental equilibrium, you no longer shred through those resistances as easy, so this unique kind of really fits that hole and picks up the slack, and overall, minions seem to be in a very good place and boasting just as much damage as they used to. In addition to that, I found it interesting that some of the Scourge modifiers are particularly powerful for minion builds, with stuff like +1 skeletons on boots here, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if that's necessarily better than, like Alberon's Warpath or something like that, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless, and there's definitely some big potential for massive damage minion builds, and it just seems to revolve around this unique here, as well as some obviously, pretty good plus minion level gems on the gear, but overall it doesn't seem like a very expensive character, and primarily this could be quite a good second character to roll into, again, if you're interested in bossing, but even if you want to do some of the Uber content, like Uber Blights or Uber Simulacrum, this seems like a reasonable pick. I haven't tried it myself, and I haven't seen too much footage of it, but it does seem like it's very successful, and a lot of people are playing it. So yeah, pretty damn interesting, with a lot of people, obviously being very high level, and also having very good characters with a lot of currency, it seems like a pretty good pick. Definitely one that I'd keep an eye on, or maybe consider even rolling into in the future. Okay, the next one we're going to tackle here, I know Cyclone's here, but I tried to figure that out, and there's just tons of people playing tons of different random stuff with it. Let's take a look at Poisonous Concoction. So this is another one which has kind of just come out of nowhere. A lot of people seem to think this is very good. I know that Steel Mage is having a lot of success with this in SSF softcore. He's solo self-found, so, if he can make it an SSF, I don't mean he's a bit of a god gamer, but, if he can make it work there, obviously we can make it work in Trade League, with a lot of people, opting for like some sort of a Carcass Jack suppression kind of playstyle here. Now, primarily the Poisonous Concoction, it gets most of its single target damage from overlaps. So people are using stuff like AoE scaling with greater multiple projectiles, and I can only imagine this scales incredibly well into the end game when you stuff like getting like Awakened greater multiple projectiles. That's one additional projectile, so it's going to be even better for the shotgun. Obviously, you're using a unique chest piece, so there's the option to double corrupt it and then also Scourge it to get absolutely ludicrous base damage on your gem, which is really, really enticing. And I think overall, Poisonous Concoction, while it might not have the most insane clear in the game, it seems to be quite a tanky build, boasting that spell suppression we were talking about, as well as high energy shield values, but also very, very good single target damage. Now, if you're interested in playing this build, though, it does actually have respectable clear speed. Using Plague Bearer, it kind of gets all of the clear speed that the old Bladefall Blade Blast Poison builds used to have. So if you enjoyed that kind of a playstyle, the BFBB kind of playstyle, this seems to be the new incarnation of BFBB. It has the shotgunning, it has the Plague Bearer kind of zoom, and it also has, the overlapping. This feels very, very similar to the old BFBB. So if you like those kind of characters, this could be one to look into. People are playing it on the Occultist for more clear speed, or people can also play it on the Pathfinder for more defensive, but also better flask sustain. So it does seem pretty interesting, and this is definitely one I'd look into if you liked the old BFBB kind of playstyle, but it does seem to have a little bit less clear speed, obviously, than that build, and it relies way more heavily on the Plague Bearer skill to, kind of get that juice. But definitely one to look into nonetheless. So pretty awesome there. We had two variations there. So the last one I want to talk about here is Bane. So Bane is a pretty interesting one with far fewer people playing this one. There is obviously other stuff here like General's Cry, which is obviously a very good one, but I personally don't particularly like melee builds, and I wouldn't actually recommend it myself, so that's why it's not on the list, but it is definitely very good. People use General's Cry with Shield Crush. I think Tripolar Bear started that, and he seems to be having some success with that, so obviously you're into that. Righteous Fire is also here, but I think this is a much higher investment build to make it feel good, so that'll be probably in a later on video where we go through some of the higher end builds, which are starting to come out of the woodwork. Let's talk about Bane though. So Bane is another incredibly good league starter in my opinion. It does kind of like excel at kind of being a bit of an all-rounder. I wouldn't say it has quite as good clear speed as maybe a Poisonous Concoction with Plague Bearer, but it's just solid. It does have a reasonably fun playstyle, kind of like the putting the big ring down and everything dies. And you kind of combine this with Essence Drain, as well as you can also throw Blight in there as well to get reasonably respectable single target damage. So you can see this person here is playing low life with Shavs. They have a reasonable energy shield total. Obviously, they got about 9,000 here. They're rocking some armor as well, which I really dig, which is, most people are playing with armor now because it's just so incredibly powerful. And, they have pretty damn good DPS. So, if you enjoyed Bane in the past and you're pretty interested in it and, you think it might be good, I definitely recommend checking it out. It is definitely on the slower side when it comes to clear speed, and it's not going to one-shot bosses like a miner does. It's kind of more of an all-rounder, but it is reasonably durable, and you do get to play a Cultist, which has the explosions, which can be quite fun as well. So overall, I would recommend Bane, and I think it would be a reasonably good league starter, and I could even see myself playing that in a future league start if I, if I wanted to go kind of a little bit slower, and, maybe do like a harvest or a heist strategy, and be a little bit more methodical about my league start, that would be something I'd check out, definitely. So those are my top league start picks. Obviously, I league started Corrupting Fever. That went quite well, but I know quite a lot of other people who are league starting different things. Those seem to be the big winners. There obviously are a few other ones that you could, kind of check out here, but those are the big premier ones, which people seem to be having a lot of success with. Out of them, my favorite one, of course, was Corrupting Fever, but I would totally look into playing maybe like a Trapper or also the Toxic Rain character. Toxic Rain particularly is very, very strong at a very good currency strategy, so it's really enticing to me, like the high strategy. So if you've enjoyed this video and you maybe learned something, or you got your new build in mind and you got to re-roll off your current one, maybe chuck me a like and a sub. Hopefully you enjoy the content. I'll see you guys in the next one, which is going to be pretty juicy. Until then, cheers.